No, Emma, you humiliated yourself. I just sent the invoice.
I'm a software engineer, 32 years old, and until recently, I worked for a tech consulting firm called Henderson Solutions. Here's the kicker, though. My wife, Emma, was the CEO, and I'd personally built every single system, algorithm, and piece of infrastructure that company ran on. Every single thing. We met in college 8 years ago. She was getting her MBA. I was finishing my computer science degree. We clicked instantly, stayed up late talking about building something together, about being partners in every sense. She had the business acumen and the family connections. I had the technical skills. It seemed perfect. After graduation, we started Henderson Solutions in our cramped one-bedroom apartment. I coded 16-hour days while she pitched to investors and handled the business side. She promised we'd be equal partners, that once we got established, she'd add my name to all the incorporation papers. I believed her because I loved her and because I was young and stupid. Fast forward 7 years. The company was valued at $3.2 billion. Emma's face was on magazine covers. She got profiled in Forbes. Her family name was on the door, on the website, on every contract. My name? Nowhere. Not on a single document. Every time I brought it up, she had an excuse. Let's wait until the next funding round. Investors prefer seeing one clear leader. We'll sort out the paperwork after this merger. I kept waiting, kept building, kept making her rich while I stayed in the shadows. Last Tuesday, we had our quarterly board meeting. These things were always the same. Expensive conference room, executives checking their watches every 5 minutes, presentations about growth metrics that I'd programmed our AI to calculate automatically. I sat in my usual spot closest to the door, which I'd long ago realized was basically the corporate kids' table. Emma ran these meetings like a general commanding troops. She sat at the head of this massive table that probably cost more than a car, wearing a blazer sharp enough to cut glass, hair pulled back so tight it had to hurt. She was presenting Q3 numbers when her pen rolled off the table. This wasn't just any pen. This was a platinum fountain pen she'd special ordered from some boutique in Manhattan, probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. It rolled across that glossy table surface in what felt like slow motion and landed right by my foot. The room went completely silent, not normal quiet, but that uncomfortable silence when everyone knows something bad is about to happen. Emma's eyes tracked that pen's journey and then locked onto me. Not near me, on me, like a target. "Pick it up," she said. 2 words. Just 2 simple words. But the way she said them, the tone, like I was the janitor or some random person off the street instead of her husband of 7 years who'd built the actual product she was presenting, made my jaw clench so hard I thought I'd crack a tooth. The entire boardroom froze. Richard, the CFO, stopped his coffee cup halfway to his mouth. Diane from operations hovered her fingers over her keyboard. Marcus from marketing looked like he was trying to decide whether to film this for LinkedIn. Then they laughed. Not nervous laughter, full-on knee-slapping, tears-in-the-eyes laughter. Emma's assistant actually snorted, which triggered another wave of giggles around the table. Even Richard, who I'd never seen smile in 3 years, was grinning into his coffee. I looked at the pen, looked at Emma, looked at all those faces waiting to see what I'd do. Part of me wanted to kick that pen under the table and watch her scramble for it in her $1,000 heels. But the part of me that still had to share a house with this woman knew that would only make things worse. So I smiled politely, bent down, picked up that damn pen, and placed it gently on the table in front of her. "There you go, Your Majesty," I said, keeping my voice light. That just made them laugh harder. Marcus slapped the table. Diane covered her mouth, but her shoulders shook. Richard muttered something that sounded like domesticated under his breath. Emma took the pen without a word, without even a nod of acknowledgement, and continued her presentation like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just publicly reduced her husband to furniture in front of her entire executive team. Here's the thing about humiliation, though. It clarifies things. As I sat there listening to her talk about projected growth and market penetration and synergistic partnerships, something shifted inside me. Not anger, something colder, more focused. I'd spent years building systems, creating safeguards, embedding backdoors into code that only I understood. Emma thought she owned this company. She thought she owned me. But you can't own what you don't understand. And she'd never understood what I'd built. Never cared to learn. The car ride home was a masterclass in awkward silence. Emma had turned off the radio the moment we got in her Mercedes, which meant she was either furious or scheming or both. The leather seats that normally smelled like luxury today smelled like tension. She was texting someone, thumbs flying across her phone screen with intensity, angling the phone away when I tried to glance at who warranted such urgent attention. I tried making conversation. I think that presentation went well. The Q3 numbers were solid. She held up one finger without looking at me. One finger. The universal symbol for shut up. I'm busy with important things and you are not important. I watched that perfectly manicured finger hover between us and felt my jaw clench for the second time that day. Right. Yeah, no problem, I muttered. We drove in silence. I counted exit signs to pass the time. Billboard after billboard flew past. Anything to avoid focusing on the fact that my wife and I were sharing a confined space, yet I had never felt more alone. When we pulled into our driveway, it was almost 7:30. The house was one of those modern, minimalist places that looked like it belonged in an architecture magazine, all sharp angles and floor-to-ceiling windows. Emma loved it. I'd learned to tolerate it. She was out of the car before I'd even unbuckled, heels clicking against concrete with the efficiency of someone who had much more important places to be. I grabbed my bag and followed, locking the car because someone had to remember these things. Inside, Emma went straight to her study, the room I wasn't allowed in without permission, and slammed the door hard enough to rattle the abstract art piece in the hallway. I heard the lock click into place. I stood in the foyer wondering what exactly I'd done to deserve the cold shoulder besides exist. Then I checked my watch. 7:45. My stomach growled, reminding me that the sad continental breakfast at this morning's meeting had been my only food all day. I made dinner anyway. Pasta with cherry tomatoes, garlic, olive oil, and fresh basil. Cooking was one of the few things I did that Emma occasionally praised, usually when we had guests and she needed to show off her well-rounded husband who cooks. By 8 p.m., I was sitting at our 8-person dining table eating alone. Every chair was empty, except mine. I tried to remember the last time Emma and I had eaten a meal together that didn't involve clients or networking. I couldn't. After cleaning up, I grabbed my laptop and settled on the couch. My fingers hovered over the keyboard before I typed, "Is marriage supposed to feel like customer service?" The search results were depressingly numerous. Relationship advice blogs, Reddit threads titled, "Am I the only one?" and "Does anyone else feel like their spouse's employee?" One comment stuck with me. If you're constantly asking yourself if this is normal, that's your answer. It's not. I closed the laptop and stared at the ceiling. From Emma's study, I could hear her on a phone call, voice muffled but animated. She was laughing. That laugh used to be for me. Now it was for board members and investors and whoever she'd been texting in the car. Somewhere in the back of my mind, a plan was forming. Not concrete yet, just the shadow of an idea. I didn't know how soon I'd need it. Around 9:30, I moved to my desk to check some code I'd been working on. A side project. Something that had nothing to do with Henderson Solutions and everything to do with maintaining my sanity. When you spend your days building someone else's empire for free, you start thinking about building your own. I had my headphones on when my phone lit up at 10:42 p.m. Emma's name flashed across the screen. I stared at it, confused. She was literally 30 feet away in her study. Why was she calling me? I pulled off my headphones and answered, "Hello?" "I've chosen to terminate all contact. Stay away permanently." Her voice came through cold and rehearsed, like she'd practiced this line several times to get the delivery just right. Formal, distant, completely devoid of human emotion. I actually laughed because what else do you do when your wife calls you from 30 feet away to deliver soap opera dialogue? What, like a trial separation? "Emma, are you okay? Did something happen?" "No," she said, and I could hear her take a breath. "Like you don't exist. This marriage is over. I want you out of the house by the end of the week. My lawyer will contact you about the details." I sat there trying to process what I was hearing. End of the week, lawyer. This wasn't a conversation, it was a corporate termination. She was firing me from our marriage like I was an underperforming employee who'd failed to meet quarterly expectations. "So that's it?" I said, keeping my voice level even though my heart was doing something weird. 7 years and you're ending it with a phone call while you're in the next room? You can't even look at me? "I don't need to look at you," she said. "This isn't a discussion. It's a notification." A notification? Like I was some app on her phone she was deleting to free up storage space. I felt something cold settle in my chest, replacing whatever remnants of affection or loyalty I'd been clinging to. It was strange, like watching something die in real time and realizing you didn't feel sad. You felt relieved that you didn't have to pretend anymore. I paused, let the silence stretch. When I spoke again, my voice was calm, too calm. "Okay," I said simply. "Okay," she repeated, suspicious. "Yeah, okay. If that's what you want, that's what you'll get." I leaned back in my chair. "But you might want to keep your phone charged tonight. Never know when something important might come up." There was a beat of silence. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Just general life advice. You never know when something critical might happen. Would hate for you to miss it." "Are you threatening me?" Her voice went up an octave. "Threatening you? Emma, please. I'm just saying it's smart to stay connected. You're a busy woman, important calls to take, emergencies to handle, that sort of thing." I was being deliberately vague, which I knew would drive her crazy. Emma hated not understanding exactly what was happening at all times. "Anyway, thanks for the heads up about the whole divorce thing. Very professional, very you." I paused. "Good night, Emma. Sleep tight." I hung up before she could respond. My phone immediately buzzed with a text from her, probably something scathing about my attitude. I didn't read it. Instead, I typed out one line and hit send. "You will regret it." 3 words. Simple, clean, direct. I watched the delivered notification appear, then switched my phone to do not disturb mode, let her sit with that, let her wonder what I meant. I turned back to my computer and opened a folder I'd labeled insurance policy about 3 years ago. Inside were files with boring technical names that no one would ever bother investigating, and most importantly, failsafealpha.py. I'd created Failsafe Alpha during the company's 2nd year, back when I still believed Emma and I were real partners. It was supposed to be a safety mechanism to protect the company's infrastructure if we ever got hacked or if someone tried to steal our systems. I'd buried it deep in the code, told Emma it was standard security protocol, and she'd nodded without understanding a single word, because technical details bored her unless they directly translated to $signs. What I hadn't told her was that Failsafe Alpha had a very specific trigger condition that could only be activated by someone with my exact security credentials and knowledge of the system architecture. And what it did when activated wasn't exactly protective. It was more like aggressive restructuring. The company ran on servers I'd built, using software I'd designed, with security protocols I'd implemented. Emma owned the name and the client relationships. I owned everything else. She just didn't know it yet. I opened the file and scrolled through the code, checking connections and dependencies. Everything was still there, still functional, still waiting. My phone lit up on the desk. Emma calling again, then a text, then another call. I ignored all of it. I checked the time. 11:47 p.m. Plenty of time before midnight. Though midnight wasn't technically significant. The code would work just as well at any time. But there was something poetic about timing the fall of Emma's empire to coincide with the death of one day and the birth of another. I positioned my fingers over the keyboard. My heart felt both calm and racing simultaneously, like my body couldn't decide if this was terrifying or exhilarating. "You know what, Emma?" I said out loud to the empty room. "You were right about one thing. I don't exist. Not to you, anyway. But let me show you what happens when something that doesn't exist decides to stop pretending." At exactly midnight, I pressed enter. The screen flickered once, and then all hell broke loose. Every server that powered Henderson Solutions started screaming. My system monitoring dashboard erupted into a light show of red alerts, error messages, and warning notifications. I sat back, cracked open a beer, and watched the digital apocalypse unfold with satisfaction. The first thing Failsafe Alpha targeted was the automated contract management system, the crown jewel I'd spent 9 months perfecting. At 12:01 a.m., it developed sudden amnesia mixed with suicidal tendencies. High-value contracts started auto-canceling, not the small ones that would be too subtle. The top 50 clients by revenue suddenly received automated emails informing them that Henderson Solutions was restructuring and would be unable to continue service effective immediately. I watched the activity logs scroll past, each line representing another severed revenue stream, another nail in the coffin of Emma's empire. By 12:03 a.m., the financial reporting system joined the party. It started triggering false liquidation alerts, sending automated notifications to investors and board members that the company was entering emergency shutdown protocols. Stock market algorithms that monitored after-hours communications picked up these alerts immediately. Automated trading systems started adjusting their models, recalculating Henderson Solutions' valuation based on what appeared to be complete corporate meltdown. I pulled up a financial tracking site and watched in real time as the company's value nosedived. $3.2 billion at midnight, $3.1 billion at 12:04 a.m., $2.9 billion at 12:06 a.m. It was like watching a countdown clock, except instead of counting seconds, it was counting Emma's net worth circling the drain. By 12:07 a.m., the client database decided to take an unscheduled vacation. Not deleted, I wasn't a monster, just temporarily encrypted with a key that only I possessed. To anyone trying to access it, the system would report catastrophic data corruption. The AI systems were really getting into the spirit. The predictive analytics engine started making recommendations like divest all assets immediately and terminate all employment contracts. I hadn't programmed that last one. The AI had genuinely gone off the rails. At 12:10 a.m., I checked the company's Slack workspace. I'd maintained admin access and set my status to invisible so I could lurk like a ghost at my own company's funeral. The main channels were exploding. Dylan, the night shift system administrator, had posted at 12:02 a.m. Guys, anyone else seeing weird behavior in the contract system? Followed 30 seconds later by, okay, never mind. Everything is on fire. Not literally fire, but like digital fire. Someone call someone. The IT channel had devolved into complete pandemonium, messages flying faster than I could read them. All servers reporting critical failures simultaneously. How is that even possible? Contract system just sent termination notices to LexCorp. That's our biggest client. Was our biggest client. The executive team's private channel was even better. Richard, the CFO, who'd found my humiliation so amusing that morning, posted at 12:11 a.m. What's happening? Someone explain why Bloomberg is reporting we're in liquidation. Our stock projection just dropped $2 billion. Diane chimed in. This can't be real. This has to be a hack. We're down $3 billion. Then at 12:15 a.m., the message I'd been waiting for appeared in all caps. Fix this now. I want every single person working on solutions immediately. Someone get our lead developer on the line. I laughed out loud. Lead developer. That's what she called me when she needed something fixed. Marcus from marketing provided the answer. Emma, isn't that your husband? The chat went silent for 15 seconds. Then, someone else. Get someone else. Call external consultants. Call anyone. We're down 95% market cap in 17 minutes. I checked the financial tracker. He wasn't exaggerating. From 3.2 billion to 160 million in less than 20 minutes. By morning, Henderson Solutions had lost 95% of its value. The fastest corporate collapse in state history, according to the news articles that were already popping up. My phone showed 73 missed calls by 1 a.m., 60 from Emma, the rest from various board members and executives. I ignored all of them, too invested in watching the Slack drama unfold. At 2 a.m. exactly, someone in the IT channel made a crucial observation. All the core processes are being terminated by authenticated admin credentials. These aren't external attacks. Someone with God-level access is doing this from inside the system. Who has God-level access? According to the logs, only one person. The original system architect. Then the realization, wasn't that Emma's husband? Emma's response, don't you dare say his name. Too late. I opened a new terminal window and posted one final message directly into the company's main Slack channel for everyone to see. Hey, maybe try picking it off the ground yourself. Then I revoked my own access, closed my laptop, and leaned back with the biggest smile I'd had in 7 years. I turned my phone completely off and settled onto my couch with popcorn and beer. I queued up The Office on Netflix. Season 5, Episode 14. The one where Dwight stages a fire drill that goes horribly wrong and everyone panics. The irony was perfect. By 3:30 a.m., I'd finished 4 episodes and 2 bags of popcorn. Somewhere out there, Emma was probably still frantically trying to reach me, mobilizing every contact she had, desperately searching for someone who could reverse what I'd done. When the sun started peeking through my windows around 5:47 a.m., I pulled up the news on my laptop. Henderson Solutions' collapse had made headlines. Tech giant Henderson Solutions suffers catastrophic system failure. Bloomberg. Henderson Solutions loses $3 billion in market value overnight. Wall Street Journal. The fastest corporate collapse in state history. Financial Times. I woke up Wednesday morning around 10 a.m. feeling more refreshed than I had in 3 years. I showered, shaved, and put on my best suit, the charcoal gray one Emma had criticized for being too flashy, even though it cost less than one of her weekly salon appointments. By 10:47 a.m., I was walking into the Henderson Solutions building. The lobby was pure chaos. People speed-walking in every direction, faces painted with panic and disbelief. Sandra, the receptionist, looked like she'd aged a decade overnight. She saw me walk in, and her eyes went wide. She dropped the phone and just pointed toward the elevators with a shaking finger. The 14th floor was even worse. Documents scattered everywhere, coffee cups abandoned, at least 3 people crying. A junior analyst was sitting on the floor with his laptop, rocking slightly while staring at his screen. I could hear shouting from inside the boardroom, multiple voices talking over each other. I straightened my tie, smiled, and pushed open the doors. The scene was spectacular. The conference table was covered in laptops, tablets, printed reports, and someone's half-eaten bagel. Papers everywhere. Richard looked like he'd aged 20 years, hair sticking up at weird angles, shirt untucked. Diane was on her phone, pacing near the windows, voice shrill. Marcus was slumped in a chair, scrolling through his phone with defeated posture. Emma's assistant was crying into a tissue. Emma was standing at the head of the table, both hands pressed flat against the surface like she was physically holding it down. Her designer blouse was wrinkled, her hair in a messy ponytail, makeup smeared in a way that suggested she'd been crying but was trying to pretend she hadn't. When she looked up and saw me, her expression went through 15 different emotions in 3 seconds. Shock, rage, desperation, hate. "You?" she said, voice cracking. "Me," I confirmed cheerfully. "Good morning, everyone. Beautiful day outside. Anyone catch the sunrise? No? Too busy watching your stock values circle the drain? You destroyed everything." Emma's voice cracked again, and she took a step toward me. Her hands were shaking. I smiled calmly. "Oh, come on, Emma. You did that when you dropped the pen." The silence that followed was thick enough to cut. I could see the realization spreading across everyone's faces, the connection between yesterday's casual humiliation and today's corporate apocalypse. Richard actually gasped. Diane's phone clattered to the floor. Marcus whispered, "Holy crap," under his breath. Emma's face went through several color changes, pale to red to an interesting shade of purple. She lunged for her phone. "Security! I'm calling security!" "Too late," I said. I pulled a folder from under my arm and tossed it onto the table. "I've already transferred all ownership, patents, and algorithm licenses to a new firm. Everything I built, every line of code, every system architecture, every proprietary algorithm, it's all legally mine. And as of 7:32 this morning, it all belongs to TechForge Solutions." "TechForge?" Richard croaked. "What the hell is TechForge?" I turned to look at him. "My firm, Richard. My company. The one I incorporated this morning while you were all panicking." Funny thing about intellectual property law. When you never put your partner's name on any legal documents despite 7 years of promises, they retain ownership of everything they create. Emma owns the name Henderson Solutions and the client relationships. I own everything else. I watched the implications sink in. Without the systems I'd built, Henderson Solutions was just an empty shell with a fancy name. They had nothing to sell, no infrastructure, no AI, nothing. "You can't do this," Diane said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Already did," I replied. "Oh, and by the way, Richard and Patricia from your board called me this morning. They're joining TechForge as senior advisors. They said they appreciated my sense of timing. That wasn't entirely true yet, but the looks on their faces made the embellishment worth it. Emma just stared at me, mouth opening and closing. For once in her life, she had absolutely nothing to say. I straightened my tie and headed for the door. Before I left, I turned back. "Oh, and Emma, if you drop your pen today, pick it up yourself." The door closed behind me with a satisfying click. 48 hours. That's all it took for TechForge Solutions to go from a spite-fueled idea to the hottest name in the tech industry. Within 2 days, my company was trending globally on Twitter and LinkedIn. Some finance guy on TikTok made a video about the fastest revenge glow-up in tech history that got 4 million views. Wednesday afternoon, after leaving Henderson Solutions, I went to the grocery store and bought a rotisserie chicken because spite is hungry work. Then I went home and filed incorporation papers for TechForge by 6 p.m. By Thursday morning, my inbox looked like it had been hit by a bomb made of opportunity. Investors who'd fled Henderson Solutions were suddenly very interested in meeting with me. LinkedIn messages were pouring in so fast the app kept crashing. The first serious inquiry came from Michael Sanderson, a venture capitalist who'd actually invested in Henderson Solutions 3 years ago. His email was blunt. "I should be mad at you for tanking my investment. Instead, I want to buy you lunch and hear your pitch." Also, that pen line was legendary. We met Thursday afternoon at a downtown steakhouse. Michael was exactly what you'd expect from a Silicon Valley VC. Expensive casual clothes, designer glasses, a watch that could fund a small country. He ordered scotch older than most college graduates and got straight to the point. "What you did was either brilliant or completely insane," he said. "I'm betting on brilliant. What's the pitch?" I laid it out. TechForge would specialize in enterprise AI solutions and custom software architecture. Everything I'd built for Henderson Solutions, but better. I owned all the intellectual property, all the algorithms, all the systems. The market opportunity was massive because most companies had no idea how vulnerable their tech infrastructure actually was. "How vulnerable?" Michael asked. I smiled. "Let's just say if their lead developer decides to go rogue, they're screwed. Most places don't document properly, don't build redundancies, and definitely don't consider the risk of the person who built everything deciding they're done." Michael laughed. "That's the most honest pitch I've heard in years. Most founders try to blow sunshine about changing the world. You're basically saying you'll profit off corporate dysfunction." Exactly, and there's a lot of dysfunction to profit from. By dessert, Michael had committed to a seed round of $5 million. $5 million for a company that was barely 2 days old. By Friday morning, the Wall Street Journal had published a feature, "The Fall of Henderson Solutions and the Rise of TechForge, a Tech Marriage Gone Wrong." Forbes followed with "How One Developer's Revenge Reshaped the Enterprise Software Landscape." Every article mentioned the pen. That stupid platinum pen had become the symbol of the entire saga. Meanwhile, Henderson Solutions was in full death spiral. The stock had been delisted, clients were fleeing, employees were mass updating their LinkedIn profiles. The company that had been worth $3.2 billion on Tuesday was now in liquidation, worth less than its office furniture. Emma's personal net worth had reportedly dropped 97%. By Friday afternoon, I'd hired my first 2 employees. Robert Blackwood and Patricia Kumar had been on Henderson Solutions' board for 4 years. Robert was a former CTO who'd retired early and gotten bored. Patricia was a strategic consultant with an incredible network. We sat in my temporary home office Friday at 2 p.m. and talked strategy. "What's your leadership philosophy?" Robert asked. "Every company needs guiding principles." I thought about it for exactly half a second. The answer was obvious. If you drop your pen, pick it up yourself. Robert and Patricia looked at each other, then burst out laughing. "I love it," Patricia said. "That's going on our website. That's going on business cards. That's our entire corporate culture." "Damn right it is," I said. "Welcome to TechForge, where we build great technology and treat people like actual human beings." Revolutionary concept, I know. We clinked our coffee cups together, and I looked around my living room at the beginning of something real. Something mine. Something Emma couldn't touch or take credit for. 1 week after the fall of Henderson Solutions, I was sitting in my new office space reviewing contract proposals from 3 different Fortune 500 companies. The office wasn't huge, about 1,500 square feet, but it was mine. My name on the lease, my logo on the door, zero risk of someone telling me my furniture wasn't professional enough. I'd deliberately chosen the same IKEA desk I'd had before, the one Emma had looked at with disgust. It was solid oak, had good cable management, cost about $300. I paired it with a comfortable chair, 2 monitors, and a Spider-Man Funko Pop my nephew gave me as an office warming gift. Robert had the office next to mine. Patricia had claimed the corner office with the better view. We'd hired Katie as our receptionist, a college student studying computer science who showed up to her interview with a portfolio of side projects. It was around 2:30 on Tuesday afternoon when Katie buzzed my desk. "There's someone here to see you," Katie said, her voice uncertain. "She doesn't have an appointment and won't give her name, but she seems intense." Robert looked up from his laptop and mouthed, "Emma," with raised eyebrows. I shrugged, but my gut said he was probably right. "Send her in," I said. The door opened and Emma walked in. Except it wasn't the Emma I'd last seen in that boardroom. This Emma looked like she'd been through a war and lost. Her hair was in a simple ponytail that looked like a normal person had done it instead of a professional stylist. She was wearing jeans, which I'd seen maybe twice in 7 years, and a plain sweater. But it was her eyes that really got me. They were exhausted. The kind of exhausted that comes from not sleeping for days, from crying until you run out of tears. No security guards, no assistant, no photographer. Just Emma standing in my doorway, looking smaller somehow. We stared at each other for a long moment. Through the glass partition, Robert was pretending to work while obviously watching us. "You humiliated me," Emma said finally, voice barely above a whisper. Not accusatory, not angry, just sad. I leaned back in my chair. "No, Emma, you humiliated yourself. I just sent the invoice." She flinched, but didn't argue. Then her eyes started wandering around my office. She looked at the IKEA desk, the monitors, the Spider-Man figure, the whiteboard covered in brainstorming notes, the espresso machine Robert had insisted we needed. Her gaze lingered on the desk. I could see the memory playing in her head. 3 years ago, standing in our spare bedroom doorway, looking at this exact desk with disdain, suggesting I upgrade if I wanted to be taken seriously. "This is really nice," she said quietly. "The office?" "Thanks," I said simply. Robert and Patricia were supposed to be loyal to the company. They were loyal to good business. Turns out that's not the same as being loyal to you. Another flinch. She wrapped her arms around herself. "The lawyers say I can't sue you. Something about intellectual property rights and insufficient contracts." "Non-existent contracts," I corrected. "Because you never put my name on anything." "I know," she said quietly, surprising me. "I know I did this. I took you for granted. Took everything you built for granted." I waited. There had to be more. "I came to ask if you'd consider selling the technology back to me," she continued. "Not all of it. Just enough for Henderson Solutions to fulfill existing contracts. I have investors willing to fund a rebuild, but they need guarantees we can deliver services. And without my systems, you have nothing to deliver," I finished. "I can't pay what it's worth, but I can offer you 40% of whatever we rebuild. Partnership equity. Your name on everything this time. Real partnership. Like it should have been from the start." I almost laughed. The audacity of coming here after everything and offering me what she should have given me 7 years ago, like it was some generous gift. But looking at her, I realized something important. I didn't want it. Didn't want to rebuild Henderson Solutions. Didn't want 40% of a company with her family name on the door. Didn't want to go back to being someone's partner when I could be my own boss. "No," I said simply. She looked confused. "But I'd be your partner again in a company I already burned down once. Emma, I don't want to rebuild your empire. I'm busy building my own." She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. She looked around my office one more time at the desk, the monitors, the evidence of something new and mine. "Right," she said finally. "Of course." She turned to leave. "Emma," she stopped at the doorframe but didn't turn around. "That phone call. I've chosen to terminate all contact, stay away permanently. You remember that?" "Yes." "Good. Because that's the last time you get to make demands of me. Ever. We're done. The company is done. Whatever we were is done. Move on." She stood there for another moment, then nodded once and walked out without another word. I watched through the glass as she walked past Katie's desk, past the TechForge logo on the wall, and into the hallway. The elevator dinged. She stepped inside. Gone. Robert appeared in my doorway 4 seconds later. "Holy crap, dude." "Yeah. You okay?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. Then I smiled. "Yeah, Robert, I'm actually perfect." Months passed. TechForge thrived. We closed deals with 12 major clients, hired 15 employees, moved into a bigger office. I moved into a downtown loft with exposed brick and hardwood floors. Got a dog, a golden retriever named Max from a shelter who greets me every day like I'm a hero. Sometimes when I scroll past news articles about Henderson Solutions liquidation proceedings, I smile and whisper to Max, "Told her she'd regret it, buddy." He wags his tail in solidarity. People ask if I miss her, friends, family, the nosy barista at my coffee shop. I perfected my response. Sure, like I miss dial-up internet. Freedom tastes like espresso and payback. And somewhere in a dusty corporate storage room, that platinum pen is probably still waiting for someone else to pick it up. Not my problem anymore.